Hi. Today I'm going to talk about an interesting pair of behavioral questions that Amazon uses quite extensively during job interviews. What is your greatest strength and what is your biggest weakness? Let's begin with the strengths. Why would Amazon be interested in anyone's strengths during a job interview? Well, that's simply because they want to see how well you fit within the job description, in which they basically enumerate the set of skills required for the given job. For example, for an SDE role, they essentially want talented, hardworking and helpful people. I made another video in which I enumerated the main skills and I associated them with the main leadership principles that apply for such a position. And we can also look at the example of a project management role, which I also covered in another video, and where I identified 4 core competencies: leadership skills, time management skills, interpersonal skills, and how well you perform under pressure. Alright, enough with the theory here. How do you actually go about finding a story about your strengths? Well, let me ask you this. What's your most recent professional success? Or what's a more recent succession of events that had a significant impact on your professional career? I bet that at least one of these can easily highlight 1 or 2 leadership principles that are the most relevant in the case of SDE roles, and also at least 1 core competency required for a project manager. Here is an example of how I would go about answering it. I believe the best way to showcase my strengths would be to talk about one of my latest successes with my YouTube channel. You see, I started this channel 2 years ago, and in the beginning there were only a few dozen people watching my content, and truth be said here, my storytelling and video making skills weren't that great. However, with time, as I learned the value of creating content for the long term as opposed to short-term virality, I eventually found my niche, that of creating videos about different hiring processes, and as my marketing skills improved, I now have thousands of people consuming my content every day. This example is good because it talks about my main strength required for this role, that is marketing skills, and you'll probably also notice that I subtly made the references to 2 of Amazon's most significant leadership principles here, that of customer obsession and ownership. Also, notice that I employed the STAR format to answer this question, and I would highly recommend you to keep this in mind for your own interview. And finally here, notice that I didn't go into too much of a detail here, and simply because my main goal here was just to showcase my strength. I didn't want to go too much on the how I managed to achieve growth on my YouTube channel, because that was not the essential part of my answer. Alright, so the success story was somewhat the easy part. Now let's move on to the weakness story. And if you remember, when I brainstormed earlier, I told you to think about what's your greatest success that you had recently, or what's the most significant succession of events in your professional career. And the reason for which I bring this one again right now is because for such a story to be a powerful one, you must essentially have a difference of potential there, an edge, in which you essentially, for example, you went from being low skilled to highly skilled at something. So this could be a great moment for you to identify a potential weakness that you have, which is not critical for this role, and how you zoom in and zoom out on that succession of events can be used to extract such a weakness story. Because of my strong personality, I tend to be a bit too direct at times. And to give an example here, in my previous role where I had to coach a technical lead that was working remotely for me, I simply had a lot of follow-up questions, and the situation got really tense. And I only later found out that they almost started crying during our chat, and quite close to leaving the whole project because of this. Now, ever since these unfortunate events, I always take my time to learn more about the other party and about their culture and about their background, especially when having tense encounters. This is a good example mainly because it talks about a weakness that's not critical for this given role. And as with the case with the failure stories, notice here that I didn't go into too much of a detail. I didn't explain the how too much, but instead I focused on ending it on a rather positive note, or in this case I focused on my learnings from this whole experience. Now, what if this answer is not enough? What if the interviewer will follow up with, okay, but what's your other weaknesses? And this is actually a good enough reasons for you to, in my opinion, to prepare a list with a set of weaknesses that will not be directly damaging to your position description, but which will be good enough to prepare you in such a scenario. I believe that one of my main weaknesses applying for a technical project management role is my lack of actual sales experience. And actually, in my previous positions as a technical lead, I often had to sell my ideas to various other stakeholders in the project. And also because I was quite curious about sales, I also took an online course simply because I wanted to improve on my communication skills for my projects. So although this wasn't a standard star answer, I believe this example does make sense for this question, and this applies primarily for I would say junior technical project management roles. The first weakness that comes to mind is that I often tend to be a perfectionist. You see, when I was earlier working on my own project, I had the luxury to invest as much time and resources as required to deliver a proper project. Now, I understand that Amazon is a commercial business, and I will have to get better at adhering to given timelines. And also in my previous role in a small software business, I learned a lot about doing tasks on a given timeline. Although this may sound like a good example, it's actually a very bad one. And this is simply because you're trying to turn a negative into a positive. That is, I'm trying to showcase my perfectionism as a bad thing here, when in fact, when applying at the top 1% best paid job in the world, perfectionism is kind of normal there. So whenever you're trying to prepare an answer for your greatest weaknesses, try to avoid talking about perfectionism, working too hard, or caring too much about details within the context of a weakness. The first one that comes to mind is public speaking. You see, in a previous role at Merida Solutions, we were a team of 15 developers delivering enterprise software, and while still in a junior role, I really did my best to deliver on all my promises. However, whenever we'd have a group meeting, that was a whole different world for me, because you see, while talking in small groups, that was perfectly fine. However, when having to talk in front of a large crowd, I really felt anxiousness, and I felt like that anxiousness was an obstacle in properly delivering my messages. And this is also one of the main reasons why I started my YouTube channel, to continuously improve on my communication skill and on delivering this type of messages. This was a good answer, and this could probably be used for many AWS roles because IT people tend to be introverts. And notice here that I employed the STAR method to give an answer, and I closed it on a learning note. That is, I try to improve my communication skills by starting my YouTube channel. And last but not least, I specifically emphasized that my weakness was not in communicating with my teammates, which would have raised a serious flag in this case. Public speaking skills are something that you can always improve at, right? So there's that. So what do you think? Was this information useful, or was it just a distraction from your preparation process? Please do let me know, and thank you very much for watching.